The office AC fought a losing battle against the sweltering December heat in downtown Los Angeles. Sarah wiped her forehead with the back of her hand as she finalized the year's last report, her fingers flying across the keyboard, with the urgency of someone whose mind was already on vacation. Around her, the marketing agency buzzed with that typical end-of-year energy, half euphoria, half exhaustion. "Sarah, are we hitting happy hour, or are you planning to work until next year?" Jessica from the design team leaned over the cubicle divider with that infectious smile that didn't accept no for an answer. "I'm coming. Just need to send this to..." Sarah paused when her eyes caught the elegant silhouette crossing the corridor. Rebecca Martinez, director of marketing, walked with that impeccable posture that made any outfit look runway ready. Today she wore a navy blazer that contrasted perfectly with her olive skin, and dark hair pulled back in a flawless bun. "Still drooling over the boss?" Jessica whispered conspiratorially. "Girl, everyone notices how you get when she walks by." Sarah felt her face burning. "I don't get any way. I just admire her professionalism." "Sure. And I just admire Zendaya." Jessica laughed, pulling Sarah by the hand. "Come on. Everyone's probably already ordering drinks." The chosen bar was 2 blocks from the office, one of those typical downtown LA spots where executives mixed with students and street artists. The sidewalk tables were already occupied by the team when Sarah and Jessica arrived. The orange sky of sunset painted the surrounding buildings in golden tones. Finally, Marcus, the social media coordinator, raised a beer in greeting. "Thought you'd leave me drinking alone with the finance crew." Sarah had barely sat down when the soft, controlled voice she knew so well echoed behind her. "I hope I'm not interrupting the subordinates' celebration." Everyone turned. Rebecca stood beside the table, a small leather bag hanging from her shoulder, sunglasses still on despite the setting sun. "Boss? Of course not." Marcus practically jumped to pull out a chair. "Sit here. We'll order more beer." Sarah watched as Rebecca accepted the invitation with a slight smile, removing her glasses to reveal those deep brown eyes that always made Sarah's stomach flip. She'd never seen her boss in such an informal setting. It was both unsettling and fascinating. The first beers went down easy, accompanied by laughter about the year's disastrous projects and campaigns that almost went wrong. Sarah noticed Rebecca drank slowly, but participated in conversations with pointed comments that revealed a sharp sense of humor she rarely showed at the office. "And you, Rebecca?" Jessica asked after the 3rd round. "Traveling for New Year's? Some fancy resort in Malibu?" A brief silence hung over the table. Rebecca spun her glass between her fingers, eyes fixed on the golden foam. "Actually, I'm staying in LA. No specific plans." The surprise was universal. The marketing director, always so impeccable and organized, without plans for New Year's Eve. That's when it happened. Maybe it was the 2 beers Sarah had drunk too quickly. Maybe it was how the orange streetlight made Rebecca's eyes sparkle. Maybe it was simply that accumulated desire of months manifesting without filter. "Want to spend New Year's Eve with me, then?" The words left Sarah's mouth before her brain could censor them. The entire group froze for a second that felt like an eternity. Then Marcus let out a laugh. "Sarah, hitting on the boss. Bold." The others laughed too, treating it as an innocent joke. Sarah forced a smile, feeling her face burn like hot coals. "It was a joke, guys. Relax." Rebecca smiled too, but there was something in her eyes that Sarah couldn't decipher. "Who knows, Sarah? Who knows?" The conversation moved to other topics, but Sarah could barely concentrate. Every time she looked in Rebecca's direction, she found that thoughtful gaze resting on her. "And you? Have you ever been in that situation where you say something without thinking and immediately regret it? That moment when words escape and you just wish the earth would swallow you?" Sarah was living that, but the worst was still to come. The happy hour stretched until the sky was completely dark, the city lights blinking like artificial stars. When they finally said goodbye, Sarah avoided looking directly at Rebecca, murmuring a generic "good night" before practically running to the metro. In the crowded car heading east, she leaned her head against the glass door and closed her eyes. How embarrassing, Sarah. Absolutely embarrassing. Her phone vibrated. Message from Jessica. "Girl, you were iconic today, LOL." Rebecca's face. Sarah responded with a skull emoji and put away her phone. At least Friday would be the last workday before the break. Then she'd have 2 weeks to forget that embarrassing situation. Friday morning arrived with the office half empty. Many people had extended the holiday, and those who showed up were clearly physically present, but mentally already on vacation. Sarah arrived early, hoping to hide among reports and avoid any unnecessary interaction. She'd barely turned on her computer when a shadow projected over her desk. "Sarah, good morning. Can we talk for a moment?" She slowly raised her eyes. Rebecca stood there, impeccable as always in a simple but elegant black dress, a leather folder under her arm, but there was something different in her expression. Something Sarah couldn't name. "Sure, boss. Problem with the report I sent yesterday?" "It's not about work." Rebecca looked around, noting the few present colleagues. "Can you come to my office?" Sarah's heart raced. She was going to be fired, obviously. She'd crossed the line yesterday, been disrespectful to a superior. What an idiot. Rebecca's office was in the corner of the floor, with windows offering a partial view of downtown LA. It was a minimalist space: glass desk, designer chairs, a bookshelf with marketing books and some industry awards. Rebecca closed the door behind them and gestured for Sarah to sit. "I want to apologize for yesterday," Sarah began before Rebecca could speak. "It was totally inappropriate. I drank and spoke without thinking. I didn't mean to disrespect or—" "Sarah." Rebecca's voice was soft but firm. "Please, let me speak." Sarah closed her mouth, hands sweating. Rebecca sat in the chair beside, instead of behind the desk, eliminating the formal barrier between them. She took a deep breath. "That invitation yesterday, does it still stand?" Sarah blinked. Once, twice, she must have misunderstood. "Pardon?" "The invitation to spend New Year's Eve together, does it still stand?" Rebecca repeated, and for the first time since Sarah had known her, she seemed vulnerable. "I know it was a joke, but I really am going to be alone on New Year's." And I realized I don't want to be. The silence in the room was so dense, Sarah could hear her own heart beating in her ears. "Are you serious?" Rebecca nodded. "I ended a 6-year relationship in October. My ex kept our friend group, my family's in Miami, and I didn't want to travel there this year. Yesterday, when you joked, I realized that it would be good to have company, your company specifically." Sarah opened and closed her mouth, trying to process the information. Rebecca was gay. Rebecca had ended a relationship. Rebecca was accepting the invitation Sarah had made while tipsy. "I don't have elaborate plans or anything," Sarah finally managed to articulate. "I was going to stay home, maybe make a simple dinner. Sounds perfect." A small, genuine smile lit up Rebecca's face. "Can I bring wine?" "You can. Yes, you can." Sarah was still processing reality. "But, won't this be weird? You're my boss." "It will be weird, yes," Rebecca admitted. "But honestly, I'm tired of spending important dates alone just because it's inappropriate or complicated to connect with people. We're both adults. We can simply have dinner and watch the fireworks as friends, can't we? Friends." The word resonated in Sarah's mind with a mix of disappointment and relief. "Sure, as friends." Rebecca stood up, her professional posture returning like armor. "Great. Email me your address. And Sarah, thank you for having the courage to joke yesterday, I mean." When Rebecca left the office, Sarah sat for long minutes, staring at nothing. She'd just arranged to spend New Year's Eve with her boss who was gay, her boss who had looked at her with those eyes that made her legs weak. "My God," she murmured to herself. "What did I just do?" But deep down, very deep down, a stubborn smile was starting to form on her lips. If you're listening to this story, comment below what city you're from. I want to know where you're tuning in from on this journey. And go ahead and follow the channel, because this story is just getting started. The days between the conversation in Rebecca's office and New Year's Eve passed in a surreal fog for Sarah. She oscillated between teenage excitement and complete panic. How many times had she looked at the email she'd sent with her address? Countless. How many times had Rebecca responded? Just once. Received. See you on the 31st R. The letter R. Sarah had analyzed that solitary letter like it was an Egyptian hieroglyph. Was it formal, affectionate, just practical? "You're spiraling," Jessica diagnosed during lunch at Sarah's place, 3 days before New Year's. "And I'm loving every second of it." Sarah was rummaging through her closet for the 15th time, throwing clothes on the bed. "I don't know what to wear. Can't be too dressed up because it's at home, but can't be too casual either. What if she thinks I'm trying to impress? Or worse, what if she thinks I don't care?" Calm down, neurotic. Jessica picked up an emerald green blouse from the pile. "This one. Brings out your eyes and is casual elegant. Perfect." "You think?" Sarah held the blouse against her body, looking in the mirror. "I know. Trust me." Jessica threw herself on the bed, among piles of rejected clothes. "But tell me something. What do you really expect from this night?" Sarah paused. It was a good question. A question she'd been avoiding asking herself. "I don't know. I mean, she made it clear we're friends, right? That it'll be casual, no pressure. But do you want it to be just that?" The silence was answer enough. Jessica sat up, her expression becoming more serious. "Sarah, look, I've known you for 3 years. I saw you go through that lukewarm relationship with Patricia, saw you figuring yourself out, saw you coming out. And never ever have I seen you look at someone the way you look at Rebecca. Is it that obvious? It's very obvious. Marcus even made a bet on when you two will finally get together. You guys bet on my love life. With money and everything, I bet on February I'm optimistic." Jessica laughed at Sarah's shocked face. "But seriously, girl, just be yourself. Rebecca wouldn't have accepted the invitation if she didn't want to be with you. And look, she's recently separated, so maybe nothing will happen beyond friendship. But the best things start that way, without expectation." Sarah nodded, storing these words like a talisman. New Year's Eve dawned with that unique climate Los Angeles has in late December, a mix of relief at surviving another year and anxiety about what's coming. Sarah woke at 7 a.m., despite having gone to bed late turning details over in her head. Her house, a one-bedroom apartment in Echo Park that she shared with an orange cat named Bowie, had never received so much attention. She cleaned, organized, cleaned again. Changed the bathroom towels 3 times until deciding which matched the environment best, arranged magazines on the coffee table in a perfect fan, then messed everything up because it seemed too artificial. "Bowie, I'm going crazy," she told the cat, who watched her with that characteristic feline indifference from the couch. The menu had been carefully planned. Nothing too elaborate that could go wrong and cause embarrassment, but nothing too simple either. Sarah had decided on shrimp risotto, something she made well and seemed sophisticated enough. For dessert, a chocolate trifle that had been chilling in the fridge since the night before. At 5 p.m., she finally allowed herself to shower and get ready. The emerald green blouse Jessica had chosen, dark jeans, hair loose in natural waves, light makeup, just eyeliner and gloss. Discreet, but careful. At 6:15, the intercom buzzed. Sarah almost dropped the perfume bottle she was applying. She checked the clock. Rebecca was 15 minutes early. Was that good? Bad? Did it mean anxiety, too? "Hi, it's me." Rebecca's voice echoed through the intercom. "Come up, it's 3:02. Sarah opened the apartment door and waited in the hallway, her heart a samba school drum in her chest. She heard the elevator arrive, the doors opening, and then Rebecca appeared. If Sarah thought her boss was beautiful at the office, seeing her in casual clothes was a punch to the stomach. Rebecca wore white linen pants and a coral tank top, her hair loose falling in waves over her shoulders. She carried a straw bag from which protruded a wine bottle neck and a package that looked like a box of chocolates. "Hi," Rebecca said, and there was nervousness in her voice Sarah had never heard before. "Did I arrive too early? Sorry. I didn't want to hit traffic and ended up ahead." No. Come in, please." Sarah stepped aside from the door, and for the first time since they'd met, Rebecca Martinez entered her personal space. Watching her boss look around the modest apartment was a strange experience. Rebecca lived in a loft in West Hollywood, Sarah knew from office comments, a probably minimalist and expensive place. Her apartment in Echo Park, with its furniture inherited from her mom and eclectic decor, was the opposite. "Your place is beautiful," Rebecca said, and it sounded genuine. It has so much personality, and this must be the famous Bowie you mention in coffee conversations. The cat, Traitor, had approached Rebecca and was now rubbing against her legs. He's never like this with strangers, Sarah commented, surprised. Animals love me. Rebecca bent down to pet the cat, a soft smile on her face. Or maybe he knows I'm harmless. There was something in how she said that last part, a subtext Sarah couldn't fully decipher. I brought wine and chocolate, Rebecca said, straightening and handing the items to Sarah. Didn't know your preferences, so I went with red and milk chocolate. Hope it's good. Sarah looked at the bottle label. It was an Argentinian wine that cost at least $60, and the chocolate box was imported. Rebecca, you didn't need to bring anything so expensive. I wanted to. Rebecca's brown eyes met hers. You're saving me from spending New Year's alone on the couch watching reruns. It's the least I can do. The apartment suddenly seemed smaller, the air denser. Well, Sarah cleared her throat. Let me put this away and... Want wine now or prefer water, juice? Wine sounds great. Sarah headed to the kitchen, her hands trembling slightly as she opened the bottle. Behind her, she heard Rebecca moving through the living room, probably looking at the photos on the shelf, the stacked books, the band posters on the walls. You like indie music? Rebecca's voice came from the living room. Love it. Got it from my mom. She played the National and Bon Iver at home every day. My mom, too. I think it's a family thing. Sarah returned to the living room with 2 wine glasses. Rebecca stood in front of the photo shelf, looking at one in particular. Sarah and 3 other girls at LA Pride, all painted with rainbow colors. That was last year, Sarah explained, handing a glass to Rebecca, my first Pride after coming out. It was liberating. Rebecca took the glass, but her eyes remained on the photo. Must have been amazing. I never went. Always made up excuses, work, travel, tiredness. But the truth is I was scared. Scared of what? Of being seen, of being judged, of confirming something I spent years trying to keep private. Rebecca took a long sip of wine. My previous relationship was extremely discreet. We never held hands in public, never posted photos together. She said it was because our private life was nobody's business, but deep down I knew she was ashamed. Sarah felt a pang of anger toward someone she didn't even know. That's absurd. You have nothing to be ashamed of. Rebecca finally looked at her, and there was raw vulnerability in her eyes. I know that here. She touched her head. But here, she touched her chest. I'm still learning. The moment stretched between them, loaded with meaning. Sarah wanted to say something profound, something comforting, but words seemed inadequate. It was Bowie who broke the moment, meowing loudly, demanding attention. Both laughed, tension dissipating. I think someone's jealous, Rebecca said, bending down again to pet the cat. He's pretty dramatic when he wants to be. Sarah sat on the couch, Rebecca joining her. But speaking of drama, I need to start preparing dinner soon. It'll be shrimp risotto. Do you like it? I love risotto. Can I help? The idea of Rebecca in her kitchen, cooking beside her, was both terrifying and thrilling. Sure. But I'm warning you my kitchen is pretty cramped. We'll have to work in close proximity. I don't mind if you don't mind, and there it was again. That subtext. That fine line between friendship and something more. They moved to the kitchen, and Sarah began separating ingredients. Rebecca washed her hands and asked what to do first. Can you chop the onion? Sarah suggested. The knives are in that drawer. Working side by side in the small kitchen was a careful dance. Rebecca moved with the same elegance she showed at the office, but there was a new lightness there, a relaxation. Their arms occasionally brushed. Excuse-me's were exchanged with smiles. Do you cook well? Sarah asked while sautéing garlic. Reasonably. Learned by necessity when I moved from Miami, but nothing elaborate. My specialty is omelets. Rebecca laughed at herself. Pathetic for a 32-year-old woman, I know. Omelets are underrated. A good omelet requires technique. You're very kind. Rebecca finished chopping the onion and brought it to Sarah. But I can admit I'm anxious to try this risotto. It smells incredibly good. They fell into a comfortable rhythm. Sarah cooked while Rebecca set the table, chose the playlist. They ended up agreeing on a selection of jazz, filled the wine glasses. Conversation flowed naturally, going from light topics like shows they were watching to deeper subjects. "Can I ask you something?" Sarah said while stirring the risotto. "How was it for you? Coming out, I mean. You said you kept things private." Rebecca leaned against the kitchen doorframe, watching Sarah cook. "It was complicated. My family's conservative, Catholic. When I told my mom at 23, she literally fainted. My dad didn't speak to me for 2 years. Oh my God, Rebecca. It got better with time. They don't celebrate, but they tolerate. It's progress, I suppose." She took a sip of wine. "And you? Does your family know?" "My mom was incredible. She kind of already knew before I knew myself, you know? Said she just wanted me to be happy." Sarah smiled at the memory. "My dad took longer to process, but he tried. Asked me to explain, asked questions. Nowadays he asks if I'm dating someone the same way he would if I were straight. You're lucky." "I know. And I'm sorry your family didn't give you that." Rebecca shrugged, but Sarah could see the old hurt in that gesture. The risotto was ready at 8:30. They sat at the small dining table Sarah had pushed against the window, from where they could see a small slice of LA's sky. The city was already pulsing with New Year's energy. Sporadic fireworks illuminated the horizon. "This is perfect," Rebecca said after the first forkful. "Seriously, Sarah, you could work in a restaurant." "Exaggeration, but thank you." Sarah felt her face warm with the compliment. They ate slowly, savoring both the food and the company. The second bottle of wine was opened. This one Sarah had bought, a more modest national red, but one that paired well. "Can I be honest about something?" Rebecca said when the plates were almost empty. "Of course." "I was nervous about today, very nervous." She spun the glass between her fingers. "Because it wasn't just about not wanting to be alone on New Year's. It was about specifically wanting to be with you." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. "I realized something in recent months," Rebecca continued, her eyes fixed on the wine as if confessing to it instead of Sarah. "I realized I was always more excited on days we had team meetings, that I looked for excuses to pass by your desk, that I paid attention when you talked about your weekends." "Rebecca, let me finish, please." Rebecca finally raised her eyes. "When you made that joking invitation at the bar, something clicked. I thought, does she feel it too? Or am I just misinterpreting? I spent the whole night awake thinking about it. And in the morning, I decided that if you were joking, at least I'd have a nice evening. But if you weren't, if there was a chance you felt something too..." Sarah couldn't breathe properly. "I wasn't joking. I mean, I said it kind of jokingly, but the feeling was real. Rebecca, I like you. A lot. For months." The silence that followed was different from the previous ones. It was loaded with possibility, with paths opening. Rebecca stood from her chair and walked to the window. Sarah followed, stopping beside her. Below them, LA teemed with life. In the streets, families were beginning to gather. In the distance, building towers twinkled. "I don't want to pressure you," Rebecca said softly. "I just got out of a relationship. You're my subordinate. There are 1,000 reasons why this would be complicated." "There are," Sarah agreed. "But there are also reasons why it could work." Rebecca turned to look at her. They were so close Sarah could count the golden flecks in her brown eyes. "Like what?" "Like the fact that every time you walk into the room, my day gets better. Like you being the smartest and most inspiring person I've ever met. Like..." Sarah swallowed hard, gathering courage. "Like I've never felt this way about anyone before." "Sarah." The name came out like a sigh from Rebecca's lips. Neither knew who moved first. Maybe they moved together, but suddenly there was no space between them. And Rebecca's lips touched Sarah's with devastating softness. It was a question kiss, a possibility kiss, a kiss that said, "What if?" When they separated, both were breathless. "That was..." Sarah began. "I know. But what now?" Rebecca ran her hand over Sarah's face, moving a strand of hair aside. "Now we enjoy the rest of this night. And then we figure it out. No pressure, no expectations, Just seeing where this can go. Sarah nodded. It was all she could ask for, more than she'd allowed herself to hope for. The clock on the wall showed 11:20. Less than an hour until midnight. And here we are, about to enter the most exciting moment of the story. Have you followed the channel yet? Don't miss the next chapters, because this journey is getting more and more intense. The apartment had transformed into a bubble separate from the rest of the world. Outside, Los Angeles prepared to explode in celebration. But inside, time seemed to have acquired its own speed, slower and denser. After the kiss, Sarah and Rebecca returned to the couch, this time sitting closer, knees touching. Bowie, apparently satisfied with the evolution of events, had curled up between them. "Tell me more about you," Rebecca asked, her hand absent-mindedly playing with Sarah's hair. The gesture was so natural, so intimate, it made Sarah's stomach flip. "I want to know everything that's not on your resume." Sarah laughed. "Everything? Could take all night. We have time." So Sarah told her. About growing up in East LA, sharing a tiny room with two sisters. About discovering her passion for marketing, watching old commercials on YouTube when she should have been studying for the SATs. About the first time she fell for a girl, at 16, her best friend, who never knew. "It was devastating," Sarah admitted, "because I realized what I felt was totally different from what I felt for the boys who flirted with me at school. It was deeper, more real, and also scarier." Rebecca listened with total attention, her eyes never leaving Sarah's face. "When did you really know?" "Really knew at 20. I was in college, met a girl at student government. We hooked up at a party and it was like finally finding the right radio station after years of hearing only static, you know?" "I know exactly." Rebecca smiled. "For me it was similar. I was 19, second year of communications in Miami. A classmate asked me out and I was like, it's just friendship, right? But when she kissed me at the end of the night..." Rebecca paused, lost in memory. My whole world suddenly made sense. "And your parents found out soon after?" "No, I managed to hide it for 4 years. Secret relationships, elaborate stories about friends, but it was exhausting and degrading. When I finally told them, it was more from exhaustion than courage." Sarah squeezed Rebecca's hand. "But you told them. And you survived." "I survived. But scars remain." Rebecca looked at their intertwined hands. "My ex, Anna, she understood that. Or at least said she understood. We met here in LA. I was 25. She was 28. We were perfect on paper. 2 successful women, nice apartment, organized life. But it was never passion, you know. It was comfort, predictability. We functioned more like business partners than girlfriends." Rebecca sighed. "And gradually I realized I was lonelier inside the relationship than I would be outside it, so I ended it." "Did she take it well?" "She was relieved, actually. Confessed she'd been feeling the same for a while, but didn't know how to say it. We separated amicably. She kept the mutual friends, I kept, well, my work and my empty loft." The sadness in Rebecca's voice was palpable. Sarah pulled her closer, and Rebecca naturally rested her head on her shoulder. "It doesn't have to be empty forever," Sarah said softly. "I know. But it also scares me, you know? The idea of opening up again, of being vulnerable, especially in a situation as complicated as this. Because I work for you? It's not just that. It's because you're young, because you're amazing, because I'm afraid of ruining all this before it even starts." Sarah pulled back just enough to look into Rebecca's eyes. "Hey, I'm 26 years old, not a child. And yes, I work for you, but we're professional adults. We can separate things if we decide to try." "If we decide to try," Rebecca repeated. "Do you want to try?" "I do." The answer came without hesitation. "But I also want you to be sure. I don't want to be a rebound or a distraction." "You're not." Rebecca touched Sarah's face with reverent delicacy. "Sarah, I spent 3 months trying not to feel this, trying to convince myself it was just professional admiration or post-breakup loneliness or anything other than what it really was. And what was it? It was me falling for you a little bit each day." Sarah's heart exploded in fireworks of its own. She pulled Rebecca into another kiss, this one deeper, more certain. When they separated, both were smiling like teenagers. Outside, fireworks were starting to go off more frequently. Sarah looked at the clock. 11:45. 15 minutes to midnight, she announced. Want to go to the rooftop? You can see some of the fireworks from up there. There's a rooftop? Yes. Shared with the building, but nobody usually uses it. Come on. They climbed the narrow stairs leading to the roof. The LA night stretched before them in a mosaic of lights and sounds. In the distance, downtown sparkled. Closer, residential buildings were lit up, windows open with families already gathered for the countdown. The air was warm, typical of Southern California winter. Sarah and Rebecca positioned themselves at the edge of the parapet, watching the city that never sleeps. When I was a kid, Sarah began, my mom always said New Year's was magical. That it was the only time of year when everyone in the whole world stopped at the same time to wish for something better. I loved that idea. Do you still believe that? I think so. Not in literal magic, but in the intention, in the symbolism of leaving something behind and starting fresh. Sarah looked at Rebecca. And you? Do you usually make New Year's resolutions? I usually make them and never keep them, Rebecca admitted with a laugh. Last year I promised I'd travel more. Traveled twice, both for work. Year before I promised I'd learn French. Learned exactly 3 phrases. Then this year let's do it differently. Let's make promises we actually want to keep. Like what? Sarah thought for a moment. I promise to be braver, not just in relationships, but in everything, at work, in life. No more making myself small because I'm afraid of failing. Rebecca nodded, clearly touched. That's good. Mine. She paused, looking at the horizon. I promise to stop punishing myself for things I can't control, like my parents' reaction, like the end of my previous relationship, like... She looked at Sarah. Like allowing myself to feel this without guilt. This? You. Us. Whatever this is or might become. From somewhere nearby, someone turned on a radio loud. An excited announcer's voice counted, 5 minutes, folks. 5 minutes to 2026. Quick, Rebecca said suddenly. Tell me something about you that nobody else knows. Something you've never told anyone. Sarah blinked, surprised by the question. Just like that? Yeah. I want to know something that's just mine. Your secret, Sarah thought. There were things she kept, of course. Small embarrassments, intimate fears, but what to share with Rebecca? Okay, there's a song I listen to every time I'm sad or scared. It's Landslide by Fleetwood Mac. And I cry every time, without exception. There's something about that song that destroys me and rebuilds me at the same time. Rebecca smiled. That's beautiful. And so you. Your turn. Rebecca bit her lower lip, thinking. I have a journal. A physical journal. One of those with a hard cover, and every time something important happens in my life, good or bad, I write a letter to myself, like a record of how I felt in that specific moment. Really? That's incredible. It's kind of cheesy, right? It's perfect. Sarah touched Rebecca's face. Are you going to write about today? Definitely. But I still don't know how it'll end. 3 minutes, the announcer shouted. The streets below were starting to fill. People came out of their homes, holding glasses, hugging family members. The energy was palpable, an electric current of hope and expectation. Can I tell you something else? Sarah said, her voice almost a whisper. Since I met you, you became the standard. You know when you like someone and suddenly all the songs, all the movies, all the beautiful things you see remind you of that person? It's like that. All of LA reminds me of you now. Rebecca had tears in her eyes. Sarah. I'm not saying this to pressure you, Sarah continued quickly. I know you need time, that you just got out of a relationship. I just wanted you to know that you're not alone in what you're feeling. I know. Rebecca wiped away a tear that escaped. I feel the same. It scares me how much I feel. 2 minutes. They turned to face each other. Around them, the city prepared to explode in celebration. But in that moment, on the rooftop of that building in Echo Park. Only the two of them existed. "You know something," Rebecca said. "I was terrified about tonight, afraid of being alone, of having too much time to think about how my life had fallen apart. And now? Now I'm happier than I've been in years." The countdown began in the streets, hundreds of voices joining. 10! Sarah and Rebecca intertwined their fingers. 9! "Thank you for being brave," Rebecca whispered. 8! "Thank you for accepting," Sarah responded. 7! The sky began to light up with the first early fireworks. 6! "Sarah?" 5. "Yes?" 4. "I want to try. Really. I want to see where this can go." 3. Sarah smiled through tears. "Me too." 2. They moved
1.
closer. "Happy New Year!" The kiss happened exactly at midnight, while Los Angeles exploded in colors. Fireworks painted the sky gold, red, green, blue. The noise was deafening, but all Sarah could hear was her own heartbeat. When they separated, both were laughing and crying at the same time. "Happy New Year," Rebecca said. "Happy New Year," Sarah responded. They stayed on the rooftop for another half hour, watching the fireworks, exchanging occasional kisses, simply being together. When they finally went back down to the apartment, the city had calmed down a bit, but the energy between them still pulsed strong. "Want coffee? Dessert?" Sarah offered. "Coffee, yes. We can save dessert for later. It's still early." Early. The word carried promise. It meant Rebecca wasn't in a hurry to leave. In the kitchen, while the coffee maker did its job, they danced to the sound of a random playlist. It was clumsy and perfect at the same time. Rebecca stepped on Sarah's foot twice. Sarah bumped into the table and almost knocked over the cups. "We're not very good at this," Rebecca observed, laughing. "We'll get better with practice." They sat on the couch with coffee cups. Bowie finally having retired to the bedroom, conversation flowed to lighter topics. Favorite movies, places they wanted to visit, foods they hated. "So you hate Brussels sprouts but love kale?" Sarah was incredulous. "How is that possible? They're completely different textures. Kale is crispy when well made. Brussels sprouts are just bitter little cabbages. I'm going to pretend I didn't hear you insult Brussels sprouts in my presence." It was almost 3 a.m. when Rebecca finally looked at the clock and sighed. "I should go. You must be tired." "I'm not," Sarah lied. She was exhausted, but didn't want the night to end. "Me neither." Rebecca smiled. "But today, technically, is January 1st, and we need to think about what comes next." "Are you having regrets?" The fear in Sarah's voice was palpable. "Not at all. I'm scared but not regretful. They're different things." Rebecca held Sarah's hands. "But we need to be smart about this. At work, nothing changes yet. Not until we understand what this is, where it's going." Sarah nodded. It was sensible. Frustrating, but sensible. "So we just keep being boss and employee on Monday?" "On Monday we're still on vacation. But when we go back, yes. At least for now, until we're sure this is real, that it'll last. And if it is, real, I mean." Rebecca leaned in to kiss Sarah's forehead. "If it is, we'll figure it out together. Talk to HR, set boundaries, do it right. But for now, this is just ours." Sarah walked Rebecca to the door. The goodbye was long, punctuated by multiple kisses and promises to talk the next day. "Sarah?" Rebecca said in the hallway, already in front of the elevator. "Yes?" "This was the best New Year's I've ever had." "For me, too." The elevator arrived. Rebecca entered, but held the door before it closed. "Sleep well, and dream of me." Then she was gone, leaving Sarah leaning against the doorframe with a silly smile on her face. Inside the apartment, Sarah threw herself on the couch, hugged a pillow, and let out a muffled scream of pure joy. Bowie appeared from the bedroom, looking at her with feline disapproval. I know, I'm being ridiculous," she told the cat. "But Bowie, she feels the same. Rebecca feels the same." The cat meowed and went back to the bedroom, clearly unimpressed. Sarah grabbed her phone. She had messages from Jessica, from her parents, from friends wishing Happy New Year. But she opened a new conversation and typed, "Got home. Still thinking about you. R." Rebecca's response came almost instantly. "Me too. Today was special. Sleep well, Sarah. Happy 2026. Sarah hugged her phone to her chest and looked at the ceiling. The year had started in the best possible way. But deep down, a small voice whispered, "And now?" How would they navigate this? How would they transform that magical night into something sustainable in the harsh light of reality? Those were questions for tomorrow. For now, Sarah allowed herself to just feel the pure and simple happiness of having found someone who made her heart race. The rest, they'd figure out together. The first days of January passed in a golden haze. Sarah and Rebecca exchanged messages constantly. Good morning with coffee emojis. Good night with hearts. Random comments during the day about things they saw that reminded them of each other. On the third day of the year, they met for brunch at a cafe in Silver Lake. It was neutral territory, far from the office and people who knew them. Rebecca arrived wearing enormous sunglasses and a light summer dress, hair pulled back in a casual ponytail. Hiding? Sarah teased when she sat down. A little, Rebecca admitted, removing her glasses. Paranoia. But also the sun is really strong. They ordered scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice. Conversation flowed naturally, as if they'd known each other for years instead of weeks. Sarah told about New Year's lunch at her mom's house, where she had to endure dating questions from aunts. Almost told them about you, she admitted, but thought it was too soon. Good that you held back, Rebecca agreed. We're still figuring out what this is. And what do you think it is? Rebecca cut a piece of toast, thoughtful. Honestly, I feel like it's the beginning of something important, but I'm also afraid of idealizing because of the romantic context of New Year's. Are you always so analytical about your feelings? Always. It's a blessing and a curse. Rebecca smiled. My therapist says I need to learn to just feel without dissecting everything. You're in therapy. For 3 years. Started when I realized I was unhappy in the relationship. Continued after. It's been helping a lot. Rebecca paused. Actually, I brought you up as a topic in the last session. Sarah almost choked on her juice. Really? Really? My therapist was excited. Said it's been a while since she's seen me so alive, was the word she used when I talk about someone. Sarah's heart leaped. And what else did she say? That I should go slow but not sabotage myself out of fear. That not everything complicated is wrong. Rebecca reached for Sarah's hand over the table. And that it seems I finally found someone who makes me want to be brave. They stayed there for 3 hours, brunch transforming into coffee, which transformed into a walk through the neighborhood. Rebecca showed Sarah her favorite bookstore, a small independent shop that sold used books and vinyl records. Sarah chose a short story collection Rebecca recommended, and Rebecca bought a vinyl of Joni Mitchell she swore she didn't have. Liar, Sarah laughed. I bet you have 2 copies at home. What if I do? This one will be special. I'll associate it with today. It was in these small moments Sarah found herself falling harder. Not in grand romantic gestures, but in simple things. How Rebecca bit her lower lip when concentrating looking at shelves. How she laughed openly when Sarah made a silly joke. How she held her hand firmly when crossing the street. But reality began to impose itself when, on January 5th, Sarah received a message from Marcus. Planning meeting moved up. We're back on the 8th instead of the 15th. Did Rebecca tell you yet? Sarah looked at her phone, stomach tightening. No, Rebecca hadn't mentioned it. Probably because she'd just found out too. Rebecca's response came minutes later. Need to tell you something. Can you call? The call was brief and tense. An important client had moved up a product launch. They needed the campaign ready by the end of January. The entire team would return early. This changes everything, Sarah said, panic starting to seep in. We barely had time to. I know, but Sarah, we knew this would happen. That reality would come back. Not this fast. Silence on the other end. Then Rebecca sighed. Can we meet tonight? Talk about this in person? They met at Rebecca's apartment. It was the first time Sarah had been there, and the contrast with her own place was striking. The loft was all white and gray tones, minimalist to excess. It looked like a decor catalog, beautiful, but impersonal. "I know, it's kind of sterile," Rebecca said, catching Sarah's expression. "Anna chose most of it, never bothered to change it after she left." They sat on the gray leather couch. Rebecca served wine. It was becoming their tradition. "So," Rebecca began, "January 8th, 3 days. 3 days," Sarah repeated. "And then everything goes back to normal? I'm your subordinate. You're my boss. We pretend nothing happened?" "It's not pretending nothing happened. It's maintaining professionalism in the work environment while we figure out how to make this work outside it." Sounds so compartmentalized. It is. But it's necessary, Sarah. Rebecca turned to face her completely. "Listen, I know it seems cold, but think with me. If we arrive Monday and it's already public that we're dating, what happens? They'll say I give you preferential treatment. They'll question every promotion, every project I assign you. They'll gossip, create a hostile environment." Sarah knew Rebecca was right, hated to admit it, but she was. "So what's the plan?" "The plan is, we keep seeing each other outside work, keep getting to know each other, keep building this. But at the office, we maintain the same professional dynamic as always." Rebecca took Sarah's hands. "It's not perfect. It'll be hard. But if we really want this to work, it has to be this way for now. For how long? I don't know. 3 months? 6? Until we're absolutely sure it's serious. Then we talk to HR, see if I need to transfer you to another team or if there are other solutions." Sarah processed the information. 6 months pretending she felt nothing. 6 months unable to touch Rebecca at the office, unable to look at her the way she wanted. "What if it's impossible?" she asked quietly. "What if I can't see you every day and act like you're just my boss? Then we figure out alternatives." "But Sarah, I need you to trust me. I've already thought about all this, lost sleep thinking about every possible scenario, and this is the best option we have." Sarah looked around the sterile apartment. "Are you always so controlled, so planned?" "Always. It's how I function. It's how I survived until now." Rebecca touched Sarah's face. "But you unsettle me, in a way that scares, but also excites. So I'm trying to find a balance between following my heart and protecting us." "Protecting me or protecting yourself?" The question came out sharper than Sarah intended. Rebecca pulled back slightly. "Both. And is there a problem with that?" "No. Sorry." Sarah rubbed her face. "I'm being unfair. It's just, Rebecca, I've never felt this before. For anyone. And the idea of having to hide, of not being able to show, I know. I've never felt this way either." Rebecca pulled Sarah closer. "But think with me. If we ruin everything by being impulsive now, we lose not just what's starting, but also our jobs, our peace. Is it worth the risk?" Sarah rested her head on Rebecca's shoulder. "No. You're right. As always. It's not about being right. It's about making the least bad choice among the bad options we have." They sat in silence for a moment. Outside, LA continued its urban orchestra, honking, distant voices, the constant hum of the city. "Can I sleep here tonight?" Sarah asked. Rebecca kissed the top of her head. "I was going to be offended if you didn't ask." The first night they spent together was revealing in ways neither expected. There was no sex. Both were conscious that taking that step would add another layer of complexity they weren't ready to navigate yet. But they slept, embraced in Rebecca's king-size bed, and in the morning woke up intertwined as if they'd done this their whole lives. "Good morning," Rebecca murmured, eyes still closed. "Good morning." Sarah observed Rebecca's face relaxed by sleep. Without makeup, with hair spread on the pillow, she was even more beautiful. "Sleep well?" "Better than in months. You?" "Dreamed we were at a beach, don't know which one. But you were laughing and there was sun and everything was light." Rebecca opened her eyes, smiling. "That's a good omen." They had breakfast together on the small loft balcony, which had a view of a piece of Griffith Park. Rebecca made pancakes. She'd lied about only knowing how to make omelets, Sarah discovered. The morning was perfect, until it wasn't. Rebecca's phone rang. She looked at the screen and grimaced. "It's my mom," Should I not answer? Answer. I'll do the dishes. Sarah tried not to listen, but the apartment was small and walls thin. The conversation started cordial. Happy New Year? How are things? But then Rebecca's mother's voice got louder, more insistent. Mom, I already said I'm not going to Miami for Carnival. Because I have work. No, I'm not making up excuses. Please, don't start. Sarah washed dishes slowly, giving Rebecca time to finish. When she returned to the living room, she found Rebecca sitting on the couch, head in hands. Everything okay? My mom wanting me to go to Miami for Carnival. Said the whole family will be there, that it's been a while since they've seen me, blah blah blah. Rebecca raised her head. Her eyes were red. But the truth is, she wants to introduce me to a friend's son. A man, because she still has hopes I'll fix my life. Sarah felt anger boil in her chest. That's absurd. You don't have to put up with that. She's my mother. I kind of have to. No, you don't have to. Sarah sat beside Rebecca. You're an adult woman. Successful. Incredible. You don't owe anyone explanations about who you love. It's easy to say when your family accepts you. The sentence cut. Sarah knew Rebecca didn't mean to be cruel, but it still hurt. Sorry, Rebecca said immediately. That was unfair. Sometimes it's tiring, always fighting, always justifying, always existing on the defensive. Sarah hugged Rebecca, feeling her tremble slightly. I can't imagine how it is, but I'm here. And you're not alone in this anymore. Rebecca nestled into the embrace. Promise? I promise. They stayed like that for long minutes. When Rebecca finally pulled away, she had a weak smile on her lips. Let's do something today. Go out, walk, anything. I don't want to stay here dwelling. They ended up at Grand Central Market. It was chaotic and crowded and perfect. They ate tacos, tried exotic fruits, laughed at vendors making loud announcements. There, in the middle of the crowd, they were just two more women enjoying Saturday, or almost. Rebecca, is that you? Both froze. They turned to find a woman about 40 with a curious smile on her face. Amy, wow, it's been a while. Rebecca immediately adopted her professional posture. Since the last company party, right? How are you? Good. Good. Enjoying vacation. Rebecca gestured vaguely toward Sarah. This is Sarah from my team. Sarah felt her stomach sink. From my team. Not my girlfriend. Not the person I'm dating. Just from my team. Oh, how nice. Also bringing work into vacation? Amy laughed. Typical of Rebecca. Always dedicated. The conversation lasted only a few more minutes, but for Sarah, it felt like an eternity. When Amy finally said goodbye, Rebecca sighed with relief. Too close. She gossips more than the entire internet. You introduced me as your employee. Rebecca caught the tone in Sarah's voice. Sarah? No, I understand. It's part of the plan, right? Professionalism, discretion, all those things. You're upset. I'm not upset. Sarah searched for the right word. Frustrated. Because rationally I understand all your logic. But emotionally, it hurts to be reduced to, from my team. Rebecca looked around. They were still in the middle of the market, surrounded by people. Let's talk outside. On the street, with fewer people around. Rebecca took Sarah's hands. Look at me. Look at me. She waited for Sarah to make eye contact. You're not just from my team. You're becoming one of the most important people in my life. But we had agreed, remember? That at first it would be like this, discreet. I know, and I agreed. But I didn't know it would hurt so much in practice. It hurts for me too. You think it was easy not to pull you there and correct her? Not to shout that you're so much more than an employee? Sarah blinked in surprise. No? No. But I did it for us. Because if Amy left there suspecting something, Monday the whole office would know, and then would start all the circus we're trying to avoid. Sarah nodded slowly. You're right. Again. Stop talking like I'm an insufferable know-it-all. But you are. Sarah smiled through frustration. An insufferable know-it-all I'm kind of in love with. Rebecca's eyes widened. Kind of in love? Okay. Very in love. Happy now? The smile that lit up Rebecca's face was worth every second of frustration. Very, because I am too. Very in love. Scarily in love. They kissed right there, in the middle of the sidewalk outside Grand Central Market, with people passing around them, and for a moment, nothing else mattered. But the clock kept running. 2 days until they returned to the office. 2 days until everything became infinitely more complicated. Monday morning, January 8th, arrived too quickly. Sarah woke in her own apartment. They'd decided it would be better not to arrive together on the first day. With her stomach in knots, Bowie meowed, complaining about late food. Sorry, buddy. I'm too nervous to function. She changed clothes 3 times. Would it be weird to dress up more than normal? Would it look like she was trying to impress someone? Which was true. But nobody could know. She ended up choosing a simple navy blouse and black pants. Professional. Discreet. On the metro, Sarah mentally reviewed the rules she and Rebecca had established. No different treatment at the office. One-on-one meetings only when necessary and with door open. No personal messages during work hours. Maintain the same professional cordiality as always. It seemed simple in theory. In practice, Sarah arrived at the office at 9 sharp. Half the team was already there, including Marcus, who waved enthusiastically. Survived the forced break? He joked. Barely. You? Went to San Diego, came back red as a lobster, but it was worth it. Jessica arrived minutes later, throwing her bag on the chair with dramatic exhaustion. Can someone explain why we're back so early? I was planning to sleep until noon every day this week. Client commands, we dance, Marcus responded. But look on the bright side. We'll get that fat bonus if we deliver the campaign on time. Sarah turned on her computer, trying to focus on emails that had accumulated. But her eyes kept drifting to the door, waiting. Rebecca arrived at 9:30. Sarah heard her before seeing her. That characteristic sound of heels on the wooden floor of the corridor. Then she appeared, impeccable in a gray suit. Hair pulled back in an elegant bun, glasses on her face. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second. There was warmth there. Promise. But then, Rebecca looked away, greeting the team generically. Good morning, everyone. Hope you all enjoyed what was left of vacation. General meeting in 15 minutes in the conference room, and she left, without looking back. Sarah let out a sigh she didn't know she was holding. Jessica leaned over the divider. You okay? You seem weird. I'm fine, just still in vacation mode, you know? I know. But Jessica's look was too perceptive. The meeting was polite torture. Rebecca presented the new project, an integrated campaign for a smartphone launch, tight deadline, high expectations. She distributed tasks, established timelines, answered questions. She was efficient, professional, completely focused. Sarah forced herself to pay attention to content, and not to how the room light made Rebecca's eyes shine, or how her hands gestured when she was excited about an idea, or how she bit her lip when thinking. Sarah? Rebecca's voice brought her back to reality. Can you lead the social media content part? Yes, of course, no problem. Great. I need you to send me an outline by Wednesday. We can schedule an alignment for Thursday, if that works for you. It works. It was all so formal, so distant. As if the last days hadn't happened, the day dragged on. Sarah buried herself in work, trying not to think about how Rebecca was just a few meters away but might as well be on another planet. Around 3 p.m., a message appeared on her phone. I know it's hard. For me too. But you're doing well. R. Sarah looked around. Nobody paying attention. She typed quickly, I miss you. The response came almost immediately. Me too. Dinner tomorrow? Yes. It was enough for Sarah to survive the rest of the day. Days turned into weeks, and they found a rhythm. During the day, they were Rebecca and Sarah, boss and subordinate, professional, efficient, cordial. But some nights per week, in discreet restaurants far from the office or in each other's apartments, they were just Rebecca and Sarah. How was your day? Became Sarah's favorite question, because at work she only saw professional Rebecca. But at night, she knew the Rebecca who complained about boring meetings, who did hilarious imitations of difficult clients, who admitted when she was insecure about a decision. On a Tuesday in February, they were at Sarah's apartment. Rebecca had brought Thai food and was sitting on the living room floor, documents spread around, Bowie sleeping in her lap. "This report is killing me," she sighed. "The board wants numbers that simply don't exist." Sarah sat behind her, starting to massage her shoulders. "Then make them up. Optimistic projection based on historical data adjusted for market trends. You're a corporate marketing genius. Learned from the best." Rebecca turned her head to look at Sarah. "Can I tell you something? Sometimes it's torture having you so close at the office and not being able to do this." She pulled Sarah into a kiss. "Only sometimes?" Sarah teased when they separated. "Okay, always. It's always torture." Rebecca pushed the documents aside, pulling Sarah to sit facing her. "But you know what's worse? When you have a brilliant idea in a meeting and I want to kiss you in front of everyone. Or when you laugh at one of Marcus's stupid jokes and I get absurdly jealous. You get jealous of Marcus. I get jealous of anyone who makes you smile, and it's not me." Sarah felt her heart melt. "You know you have nothing to worry about, right? I only have eyes for you." "I know. But that doesn't make the feelings less stupid." Rebecca played with a strand of Sarah's hair. "I miss being able to touch you, to be able to look at you without measuring every expression. How much longer do you think we need to keep it like this?" It was the question that constantly hung over them. Rebecca sighed. "Honestly, I think it's time to talk to HR. It's been almost 2 months. We know it's serious. We know we want this." Sarah's heart accelerated. "Really? Really? I'm tired of hiding. And more importantly, I'm tired of hiding you. You deserve more than secret meetings and deleted messages. But what about work? What if they want to transfer me? Then we deal with it. Together." Rebecca held Sarah's hands firmly. "Look, I've thought a lot about this. Worst case scenario is you have to change teams but stay at the company. Best case scenario is they let everything stay as is with some clear guidelines. Either way, we stay together, and that's what matters." Sarah hugged Rebecca tightly. "When?" "How about next week? We schedule with Marcia from HR, explain the situation, see what the options are." "I'm scared." "Me too. But it's a good fear. It's the fear of someone who's about to stop hiding." The conversation with Marcia from HR happened on a Friday at the end of the workday. They'd requested a joint meeting, which had already raised eyebrows. Marcia was a woman in her 50s, gray hair, maternal but professional air. She listened as Rebecca explained the situation, how it started, how long it had been happening, why they were coming now. "I understand," Marcia said when Rebecca finished. "And you're aware this could generate some complications?" "We are," Sarah responded. "But we want to do it right. Follow protocols." Marcia flipped through some documents. "Technically, there's no policy against employee relationships. There are only recommendations for cases of direct hierarchy, which is your case." "What are the options?" Rebecca asked. Option 1. Sarah is transferred to another team with different supervision. Option 2. Rebecca abstains from decisions related to Sarah's performance evaluation and promotions, with another manager taking that role. Option 3. One of you requests transfer to another area of the company. Heavy silence in the room. "How much time do we have to decide?" Sarah asked. "I'll need to report this to the board by Monday. But you can think over the weekend and give me an answer." Marcia removed her glasses, her tone becoming softer. "Look, you two, can I speak off protocol?" Both nodded. "I've worked here for 15 years. I've seen many office relationships. Most end badly because people don't do what you're doing. Being honest, following rules. The fact that you came to me shows maturity and commitment." She smiled. "You'll have challenges ahead. You'll have people gossiping, questioning. But if it's real, it's worth it." Sarah felt Rebecca squeeze her hand under the table. "Thank you, Marcia," Rebecca said. "Really." When they left the room, the office was practically empty. Everyone had already left to enjoy Friday night. They walked in silence to the elevator. Inside the empty elevator, Rebecca finally spoke. "So?" "Option 2, Sarah said without hesitation. "I stay on the team. You continue as leader. but another manager handles my evaluations. It's the option that changes our work dynamic least. Are you sure? Because I can accept another proposal if... Rebecca, Sarah held her face. I joined the company before you. I like what I do. I like the team. I'm not throwing that away just because we're together. Option 2 makes the most sense. The elevator reached the ground floor. The doors opened to reveal the empty lobby. For a moment, they just stood there, looking at each other. Then Rebecca did something she'd never done before. There, in the lobby of the building where they worked, she pulled Sarah into a kiss. It wasn't long or dramatic. It was simple, sweet. A promise. Want to get dinner? Rebecca asked when they separated. Let's. But this time, a place where we don't need to hide. They went to a restaurant in Santa Monica, a beautiful place with tables on the sidewalk. They ordered wine, pasta, dessert, talked loudly, laughed without worrying if anyone was watching, holding hands over the table, not caring who saw. You know what's funny? Sarah said over dessert. That day at happy hour, when I made the joke invitation, if someone had told me that 2 months later we'd be here, I never would have believed it. Why not? Because you seemed so unattainable. This beautiful, successful, super intelligent woman, and I was just Sarah, the assistant who thought you were incredible from afar. You were never just Sarah. Rebecca intertwined their fingers. You were always the woman who lit up the room when you entered, the most creative and passionate person I've ever met, the one whose laugh I looked for in meetings because I knew if you were laughing, my joke had been good. Sarah felt tears forming. Stop. I won't stop. You need to hear this. Rebecca wiped away a tear that escaped Sarah's eye. You saved me, you know? I was so lost, so stuck in a life that didn't make me happy. And then you appeared with that smile and that absurd invitation, and suddenly everything made sense again. I love you. The words came out before Sarah could censor them. Sorry. I know it's early, and maybe you're not ready to hear this, but... I love you too. Rebecca was crying now too. I love you in a way that scares and excites at the same time. I love how you see the world. I love how you make me want to be braver. I love... She laughed through tears. I love even that ridiculous orange cat who keeps ignoring me. Sarah laughed and cried at the same time. Bowie loves you too. He just doesn't show it because he's a cat. They stayed there until the restaurant started closing, just existing together. Without hiding, without fear. It was the beginning they should have always had. And more importantly, it was just the beginning. Monday arrived. Sarah and Rebecca sent their decision to Marcia, option 2. Within a week, it would be announced that Daniela, another company director, would assume direct management of Sarah for evaluation matters, but she would remain on Rebecca's team for projects. The news spread fast. Sarah was at her desk when Jessica practically jumped over the divider. Is it true? She whisper-shouted. What? You and Rebecca. I heard HR people talking. Sarah, how did you not tell me? Sarah looked around. Marcus was also staring, as was half the team. There was no denying now. It's true. We're together, for a few months. I knew it. Jessica hugged Sarah hard. I knew there was something, the way you looked at each other. Sarah, I'm so happy. Marcus approached, smiling. Congrats, Sarah. The boss is a good person. You match. Others from the team came to congratulate, ask questions, discreet ones, express support. It was overwhelming, but also good, liberating. Rebecca appeared in the team area around noon. The buzz diminished when everyone saw her. Can I steal Sarah for lunch? She asked, addressing the group but looking only at Sarah. You can, Sarah said, grabbing her bag. As they walked to the elevator, Sarah could feel the looks, hear the whispers. But when Rebecca held her hand, all of that became distant. How's it going? Rebecca asked when they were alone in the elevator. Scary, but good. It'll get better. People will get used to it. They'll stop being news. And until then, Rebecca pulled Sarah into a quick kiss. Until then, we remember that what matters is this, the two of us. The rest is just noise. They had lunch at a cafe near the office. Talked about the project, about the weekend they were planning together, about small everyday things. It was normal. It was light. It was exactly what it should be. When they returned to the office, they found a package on Sarah's desk. Inside, a thermal mug with the words, "World's Okayest Employee," and a note from Marcus, "For you to use in meetings with your boss girlfriend." Sarah laughed, showing Rebecca. "At least he has a sense of humor," Rebecca commented, but she was smiling too. The following weeks brought adjustments. Sarah had to learn to work with Daniela as direct manager, although she still collaborated intensively with Rebecca on projects. There were some mean comments, there always are, about favoritism and questionable competence. But the team in general was supportive. And slowly, marvelously, the extraordinary became ordinary. Rebecca and Sarah dating stopped being news. They became just another couple, like there were others in the company. On a March night, 3 months after New Year's, they were on the rooftop of Sarah's building again. It was their 3-month anniversary. Sarah had insisted on celebrating, even though Rebecca thought it excessively teenage. "I'm just saying normal adults don't celebrate every month," Rebecca teased, but had a smile on her face. "Boring adults don't celebrate. We're not boring adults." The city stretched around them, alive and pulsing. There were no fireworks this time, just the constant glow of LA at night. But they didn't need fireworks. They had something better. "Can I ask you something?" Sarah said, leaning on Rebecca. "Always. Do you regret it? Accepting my invitation that day?" Rebecca turned Sarah to look at her directly. "Never. Not for a second. That was the best yes I've ever given in my life. Even with all the complication, work, gossip, everything. Especially because of that. Because it proved you're worth any complication. That we're worth it." Rebecca kissed Sarah's forehead. "And you? Did you regret making that joke?" "My only regret is not doing it sooner." They stayed there, embraced, while the city continued its symphony. Bowie meowed from the apartment window, demanding attention. "Your cat is jealous again," Rebecca observed. "Our cat," Sarah corrected, "because you know you basically live at my apartment now." "True." "Should I start paying rent?" "You can start by stopping buying that expensive brand of coffee. My supermarket one works perfectly." "Never. I have standards." Sarah laughed, pulling Rebecca back to the apartment. Bowie greeted them with dramatic meows of abandonment. "Drama queen," Sarah murmured to the cat, filling his bowl. Rebecca threw herself on the couch, watching Sarah with that soft expression she now used without reservation. "Want to know something?" When I woke up on January 1st, I thought it would be just another year. 12 more months of work, loneliness, routine, and then you transformed everything." Sarah sat beside her. "For the better, I hope." "Infinitely better." Rebecca pulled Sarah into her lap. "You gave me back something I thought I'd lost." "What?" "Hope. That good things exist. That it's worth taking risks. That love doesn't have to be complicated or painful. It can be simple, light, like this." Sarah kissed Rebecca, pouring all the love she felt into that gesture. When they separated, both were breathless. "I love you," Sarah whispered. "I love you too. So much it's scary sometimes." "Good kind of scary?" "The best kind." They spent the rest of the night like that, talking, laughing, making plans. Small plans, like a weekend trip to the beach. Big plans, like maybe, eventually, looking for a bigger apartment together. It was just the beginning. There would be challenges ahead. There always are. Moments of doubt, arguments, obstacles, but they'd proven they could face all of that together. Because in the end, it all started with a joke at happy hour. A sentence thrown to the wind that transformed into a promise. Into a love that neither Sarah nor Rebecca knew they were looking for, but both desperately needed. And when Rebecca woke up the next day, Sarah still sleeping beside her, Bowie snoring at the foot of the bed, she thought, "This is the beginning I deserved. This is the love that's worth it." It wasn't easy. It wasn't simple, but it was real. And that was all that mattered. And there you have it, folks. We've reached the end of this journey. If you made it this far, thank you so much. This story of Sarah and Rebecca shows that sometimes the best loves start unexpectedly, with a joke that becomes real. Comment below, have you been through something similar? Have you had the courage to risk it even when scared? I want to hear your stories, and don't forget to follow the channel for more stories like this. What city are you listening from? Leave it in the comments. Hugs, and see you in the next